Oh, I think the Reserve Bank will have little option but to continue to cut interest rates. And the reason for that is pretty obviously that if business conditions are going to be as tough as what many predict, then unemployment is likely to continue to rise.
And give us a number. What's your prediction? Where will we get to?
Look, we're 3 as we do this. You've got to say 2.5, but don't be surprised if it's even 2.25. But as I say, the trick for people is going to be when does the outlook change? Because as soon as that changes, all your investment strategy is going to change along with it.
I think we're close to the bottom. I think another 25 or 50 basis points maximum. And it's very important to note we have an election this year, and I think there might be a change in the fiscal situation, which has dragged the economy lower, and therefore I think monetary policy has played its part.
So lowest point, 2.5%.
2.5 cash rate maximum.
Well, they're heading down because the central bank's behind the curve, the international interest rate curve, and the strength of the Australian dollar. So they'll be cutting probably towards the middle of the year.
And how many cuts do you think we'll get?
Probably 2, so down to about 2.5%.
And does it stabilise there?
Probably. I don't think it needs to go any further than that, but at 2.5% it should have an effect on the currency as well.
And will the Reserve Bank change their direction by the end of 2013?
No, because the Australian economy is sweltering under the heat of a high Australian dollar, and it's going to take at least a year to get us away from that.
So we'll finish at 2.5%?
Yep.
Definitely lower. Towards the end of 2012, we saw an interest rate cut, and I'd say there's going to be at least 2 more interest rate cuts in the first half of 2013. I'd say interest rates towards the end of the year will be around 2.5%, the official rate.
The RBA is behind the curve. We think they're going to cut by, at minimum, 100 basis points over the next year.
I'm in the camp, at least 2 cuts, maybe 3 going
Hang on,
forward.
what about the view that these lower interest rates, that the public, that the community, that business is simply ignoring them, just as they did in Europe, just as they did in the United States?
Well, we're now seeing that the United States, they're being forced to do something with it. They've got fiscal issues. Once they're over that, I think that will flow from the consumer into the business sector. It's been a slow grind. I think the same thing in Australia. We've got too much money tied up in mortgages in Australia. We're paying down our debt. But I think as we do that, eventually it's taking longer. We're not as sensitive as we were or as reactive. But I think we'll get there. And that effectively means rates have got to go lower than where the Reserve Bank feel comfortable about.
You've got a mortgage, you've got a business, Matthew Kidman, he's the man you want to follow. Rates down by 0.75% in the next year.